Hello, everybody, and welcome to this interview with Sam Shurmer from the new team at Data School New York. Thanks for joining me.
No worries. Nice to be here.
Could you tell everybody a bit about your journey? Because you joined us, I believe, straight from university into the data school, into the core team, into the team in New York. So tell everybody about that journey.
Yeah, a little bit in and out of uni with some few gaps and random jobs, but we'll get into that, won't we? So yeah, I went to Plymouth Uni, so down in the southwest where all the pilgrims set off, I guess. So you probably all know where that is.
Yeah.
And I studied economics for 3 years, which was always a good fun course with a bit of data, but a bit of real world application, right? And then I didn't really know what to do with myself. A few of my friends started to use Tableau and then moved on with life, and ended up going to the Netherlands, in Rotterdam, and again another place where everyone traveled from, and did my master's degree in economics, but this time focusing on urban port and transport, so a really practical use. And got around to writing my master's thesis and really needed to visualize some of the data that I had. So a few of my friends were like, oh, wouldn't you use this Tableau thing? And then I was like, sure, that's what Ravi was talking about like 4 years ago. Sounds familiar. And ended up doing that. And then with the help of a friend, my first proper chart was a network analysis in Tableau. So it's not everyone's first chart for certain. Built that, didn't use it in my thesis, but it got me back into thinking about Tableau. I went back home, so the Isle of Wight, so right on the south coast of the UK, and went back to a job that I'd had before I did my master's, which was just working in a hotel, helping people enjoy their holiday and then trying to get them to kind of buy more holidays, which I'm amazed how many people like to do the same holiday again and again, but alas. And then ended up being like, oh, I'll apply for this data school thing. Tableau was great fun. It sounds interesting. Applied and ended up in DS13, and haven't looked back.
So you had your training period during the data school, and then where did you go on your placements, and how did that help prepare you for joining the core team?
Yeah, so I had quite a fun mixed bag of placements. I spent my first 6 months at a charity in London called Guys and St Thomas Charity. So that was really cool, really interesting, because it was about how urban environment affects people's health. So they were doing research into things like pollution, adult mental health, and childhood obesity. So we were taking data and kind of understanding where their money would best be spent to cause the most. So there's lots of spatial data and lots of urban. So it really harked back to what I did my master's in, which was really interesting.
Sounds like a pretty rewarding placement too.
Yeah, so that was really nice. I think some placements you can be like, oh, I'm not doing anything that feels rewarding, like the work's interesting and exciting, but you got the addition on top of that, is that you felt like you were really making a difference, or at least helping people. Guess that's a typical millennial trait, right? But yeah, so that was really interesting. Then I went over to PwC, where we were doing basically a project amongst upskilling, and that was with quite a lot of other data schoolers, which was really nice after being on my own as a consultant at the other place, though I had followed in the footsteps of a few others, so it wasn't too dissimilar. But to work together as a team, and we put together basically a curriculum and implemented it, which was lots of teaching in person, which is always really enjoyable, and lots of kind of working and getting and tweaking to get things perfect. And then the pandemic struck, which changed quite a lot, and we suddenly went from being in person to having to do everything online, like we've been doing now for a few years. So that meant the whole curriculum had to change, because certain things.
That must have been a really challenging time then.
Yeah, it took us about 3 weeks to get the whole thing kind of flipped over, which was
sounds really, really fast.
Yeah, it was. They expected us to do it in 6. Then what did I do? I went and did more trainings. My third placement was actually with the information lab itself, and we were basically supporting Ultrex, doing different work with lots of their clients to introduce and get them to understand how to do Ultrex and how to use it across their business and implement it in different departments and get the best use out of it.
So it sounds like you've had at PwC, the training was much more focused on the data visualization side, and then you had much more focus on the Alteryx side in your next placement. So you got kind of the whole gamut of training. So you really knew what you'd be getting into coming into this data school in New York thing.
Yeah, 100%. I think both were really quite different focus. The Alteryx side was really a very technical based focus. We were really talking about how you do it. And then at PwC, it was much more about why. So we started them off with visualization and other soft skills around how to use data and how to argue with data.
So all four of your placements were very different, but that probably helped prepare you for a role in consulting. So how did that, tell me a bit about that transition into the consulting team?
Yeah, I think all four of them as well, in terms of asks, kind of ramped up as well. So I think they were a nice kind of ramp in terms of both difficulty technically and both difficulty from those softer skills side. Guys in St. Thomas is a charity that it is inevitably a little bit slower than some corporate places. So it gave me that room to breathe and learn. And the stakeholder who I had was brilliant. So I was able, not perfect, no one is, but it enabled me to kind of really learn how to interact and consult in that. And then PwC was working with tons of people all the time, which is a very different style. It's very quick relationships and making changes. So quite a different way. Ultrex was kind of probably just growing on and building on that a little bit. And then JP Morgan, well, JP Morgan's JP Morgan. It doesn't need an introduction. It's a lot of people who are under a lot of pressure, having to work around that, and a lot of international stakeholders as well. Lots are based in New York and Hong Kong, as well as just here in London. So I think through that, transitioning to the core team, I learned loads about soft skills, about how to speak to stakeholders, in particular stakeholders that hold positions quite different to you. I think one of the most eye-opening things when I left the data school and went on to placements was the level of people you were interacting with in a lot of the businesses straight away, which was not something I thought that would happen. And also kind of those abilities to manage projects and work out how long things are going to take, because everyone has very varying opinions and about setting those expectations correctly.
What advice do you have for data schoolers to make the most of their placements?
I think one of the best ways to make the most of your placement is to a point is don't forget where you came from. So don't forget that when you go out to placement, the company that's hiring you for consultants, not just hiring you, they're hiring you and your ability to access different parts of Till. You can ask me a question, you can ask anyone at the information lab worldwide a question, and someone will know the answer. If you don't know something, someone will. I think the best thing you can do is not forget that you're part of a whole team, not just you out there alone in the wilderness.
Why should somebody apply to the data school?
I think it's an amazing opportunity to get paid to upskill, to get paid to learn products and skills that are becoming more and more important and more useful, and open doors that may have been closed to you for whatever reason beforehand. It's a well-known and respected kind of place to be, and I think the opportunities to grow and develop and move along from it are almost unparalleled in this space.
Following up from that, then, what advice do you have for applicants?
Don't be scared to ask for feedback. It's really encouraged. If you've got a viz and you think it might be good enough, send it in and we'll give you some feedback, and then you can make it even better. Like, iterating on feedback is so important when at clients, and it's also really good to get in the process of it even when you're just applying. The second one is take a look around, see what it took other people to get in, and what other people are producing, and get some ideas from there. And there's loads of stuff out there.
Last question for you, Sam, and this one might be a bit tough. How do you know if you're going to be personally successful in your role in New York?
Personally, it'll be successful if the DSs are out on placement and are really starting to feel involved, are really starting to feel themselves grow, and we're getting that feedback from clients that the DSs are doing what we expect of them, which is an awesome job, and are really helping others to grow in their journey and also grow on their own. So I think my personal success is not down to, is always down to me, but it's down to what I can implement and help others to grow. So
thank you very much, Sam, for taking the time to speak to me today, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.
see you in a bit.
All right, bye.